Hey guys, Tommy from Sidewalls Lacrosse. The following is a conversation I had previously with Matt Linsky of Hershey Lax Dyes. The reason I'm posting this now is because I never reposted it then, and this kind of video podcast also pretty much contains every lacrosse topic that I'm passionate about and have wanted to share with you all or give you more history on, whether it's my journey of lacrosse growing up or my time pursuing the NLL, college lacrosse stuff, even some shooting tips or what it was like growing up. So I want to just post this now because it contains all that stuff. I am planning to do more videos. This is me currently in 2024. A lot has changed. My life is amazing, and so I don't have as much time for making videos, but I'm still really passionate about it and want to continue to create videos of things that I enjoy and think that you guys will enjoy too. So thanks as always for watching and enjoy the conversation.
And then, yeah, like getting passes from John Grant Jr., like one of the all-time greats. Said, funniest trash talking experience you had in the NLL. It was actually from a fan. So like the starting point of where kids are now from where I was at that age is just such a stark difference.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's exciting to see where the sport can go because of that. So
I definitely would love to have your insight in it. Oh, yes.
look at this thing.
What's up, guys? It's Matt from Hershey Lax Dyes here with another episode of Tuesday Tie-Ups on Lacrosse Playground. And tonight I'm going to be joined by Tommy McKee from Sidewalls Lacrosse. And we're going to be tying up some heads and talking about the new YouTube video he just dropped. It's hysterical. So we'll get him in here and we'll chat a little bit about that and get to stringing. So,
Yo.
what's going on?
What's up, Matt?
How you doing?
Good, man.
Good.
I'm just trying. I want to get this camera right so you can see like what I'm stringing.
Yeah. It's always the battle that I have is like the appropriate placement.
Yeah.
Not cutting my head off, but being able to see.
I'll figure it out. I've actually still got the rig from if whoever's watched the video. There we go. This is like the top-down camera rig, you know?
Nice.
So I might have to throw it up there every once in a while to get the dynamic shots.
I dig it. Seven Hill String said we need to go speed stringing contest. Go.
How fast? What's like?
So I did a video for East Bay, and I strung Maverick Optic 3.0 like weaved inside. So like I actually didn't just slap together a bunch of SIs or ones or whatever. And it took me 17 minutes. That was going about as fast as I could doing the weaved inside. But then Seven Hills and I actually did a live stringing 2 weeks ago, I want to say. And we had a timer going.
Okay.
That I had set up. And he did it in like 11 minutes and 20 seconds. Strung ahead, and I was like 12 and a half minutes.
Yeah, nice.
So
There's
like some guys on here who are like, I can do it in 6 minutes, and I'm like, all right, let's see.
Or for East Bay, I thought you were gonna say you were strung up an Adidas cleat for him. But yeah, I can paint a 1-bedroom apartment in like 8 minutes. I don't know if people will believe that, but I used to work as a painter back in the day.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, whipping them out. But that's like big accent wall, brick wall in the living room, you know? So it's like
right.
One wall not there, so.
Cool. Hey, Nish, what's up, man? Yeah, so I don't know who's in here who saw your video that dropped today, but that was, it's good to see you not blindfolded this go around. How was that?
Yeah, it should work a lot better. I'm going to do the another zombie head, but yeah, I think it's going to go a lot better for sure.
So what gave you the idea to do the blindfolded stringing?
Man, I don't know. I'm just trying to like think of different ideas and stuff, you know? And I think from the video intro, you can kind of like see the comparison to like a Mr. Beast video. I mean, I put him in there for that portion of it, but I mean, part of that was kind of inspired by Colin and Samir. Their like YouTube explosion over these past 4 months or 5 months, whatever it's been, has been amazing to see. But but yeah, like I the previous video before that, I mentioned like kind of trying to want to focus on YouTube and just like creating more like fun, cool lacrosse content for people to enjoy from like a YouTuber-esque like perspective, you know? Like people do highlight tapes and all that stuff really well, like ECD Greg, like they do shoot a bunch of awesome stuff, like super big compliments to them for that. But that's never been what I've been like really passionate about as far as like the video like scene goes.
Right.
But yeah, just doing more stuff that's like fun and kind of like lighthearted, like the backyard transformation, and then yeah, blindfolded stringing, stuff like that. Just kind of trying to create as much like entertainment value as I can, you know. And so I'm excited for more videos to be able to continue on some cool things like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, it was definitely it was fun to see the final product.
Yeah.
Somebody
Yeah,
just said
Woo.
blindfolded dying. That sounds like it would be a nightmare.
What was that?
Blindfolded dying.
Oh, blindfolded dying. Yeah. Well, not for my process, maybe, but for you guys, I guess. Yeah.
So in particular, when you tried to open one of these boxes,
Yeah.
you almost sliced your thumb off. I was like, nah. But that little piece of tape that they have here is like, it's impossible to remove with your fingers.
Yeah, I feel like that was relatable, especially to people that have strung a lot, for sure. I will say though, like I put the disclaimer in there, the warning for the kids. Like, as much as you want to believe all the videos, like I didn't peek from the blindfold, you know, that was real, but the cutting of like almost cutting my thumb off was definitely staged. Like I need these fingers to like, I have a lacrosse game tonight with the big tunas. Like I want to play, you know what I mean? So it's like, there's a little bit of like acting in that sense of it. Like I had some of my senses of what was going on there. Right. So, but
Nish said blindfold single string traditional.
Single string trad. I tried trad when I was in probably like 8th grade. And I mean, honestly, it didn't come out like too bad, but from a technical perspective, horrible, I'm sure, you know?
Right. So yeah, let's see this Lax Zombie Dies collab head.
Okay, yeah. There's the like throat. Yeah, in my previous video, the one titled October, that one kind of explains like sort of what I'm trying to pivot to now. I started Sidewalls Lacrosse, and we offer, you know, any custom designed head you can think of, and we're able to manufacture them at scale, right? So you guys create amazing dyed creations, but like we've talked about, that takes, you know, potentially between 20 and 40 hours to do. Like if you're doing one for, why am I blanking on it? Like the tournament that you guys do, I'm blanking on the name right now.
The Dyer's Cup.
Yeah, the Dyer's Cup. Like those heads are unbelievable, but you can't provide, you know, the community with 50 or 100 of those cool Nickelodeon heads just because like there's no market in as far as like the time goes that those take to produce, you know?
Right.
Like someone's not going to pay $2,000 for 100 of them.
Right.
You know, $2,000 each. So yeah, I was able to just like kind of innovate that process of manufacturing custom lacrosse heads, and that way if dyers and other like people, organizations, whatever, want to collab and make some like cool designs to offer to their club and players, I can now like manufacture those at scale using the Sidewalls Lacrosse process.
Right.
But when you're making individual designs for the entire lacrosse community, that can be a lot of like graphic design and time that is then taken away from YouTube.
Right.
And so that was kind of what I was running into, was too much focus on like these individual head designs. And some of them were just like mock-ups, which was, again, yeah, taken away from the YouTube stuff. And so I wanted to invest more in the creation of videos and all that. Head of the month, where I collab with a different creator, organization, player. This is going to be like the smart thing as far as like time management goes,
Right.
And making the business have a healthy relationship with like the video create and content creation side of things.
Right.
Yeah. I guess I should probably get started on this one too, huh?
No, it's all good. It's I get roasted on here. In particular, Max Green Star Lacrosse always gives me a hard time for how long it takes me to string a lacrosse head on these live. And when we did the speed session, I was like, see, I can string quickly. It's just when I'm responding to comments and trying to like have conversation,
Yeah,
it distracts, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I thought that when you released that head of the month with Shane, like that was definitely a cool idea. He's obviously one of the best dyers out there.
Oh yeah.
And I think especially like for your first one to have such like a cool graphic, the design, the brains and all that in October, like definitely a cool way to launch it. So
yeah, well that's like kudos to him as well for having amazing graphic design himself. Like that was one of the main reasons I picked him for October, right? Because his logo is so badass from that perspective. Like
right.
It just, if you can put that repeatedly like on a lacrosse head, like that's such a cool thing to be able to provide to people looking for custom gear. So yeah, I was like super pumped to be able to partner with him on that.
Yeah.
See, this is how I would have cut it, you know, safely. It's just like
Right.
slow and controlled, no risk necessary.
So Green Star just asked, are you done doing custom heads then? Like custom for individuals?
No, yeah, I'll still offer those. But yeah, that's just gonna be like through like email and DM, you know. And I'm also gonna now require a deposit for that like mock-up work to be done, just because the like the demand for like mock-ups and things is like to the tipping point. Like I offered them for free at first just because I wanted to get it out there. Like, and I give a 3D, a custom like 3D model for each of these designs.
Right.
And so there's just like a lot of time that goes into it, which I want to provide because I want people to get the best, like the best custom head that they can have, you know?
Right.
But yeah, those are just going to be not advertised on the site anymore. It's just going to be like through DM or email if you need a custom one. Yeah, I can still accommodate for sure. Oh, but they'll also be batched with the other head of the month orders, you know?
Right.
Again, just to help reduce the like time being kind of like not wasted, but just like optimizing the time. You're gonna have to wait a little bit longer potentially to like get your head if it's batched in, you know, toward one of these end of the month orders.
Right.
I mean, unless you order like a week before the end of the month, then it'll be super quick.
Right.
But yeah, I'll still be able to accommodate that stuff. So yeah, if you guys got ideas, just hit me up. Is the Optic 2 good? No, Sidewalls Lacrosse is the best head. No, I'm kidding. I'm excited to be on here, Matt, to be able to just like kind of learn some more about that stuff because I've been so centrally focused on my own brand of head, which I'm really proud of with how it was made and the design behind it and all that. But like the last time I used a different head was in college. I used a Surgeon and then I guess NLL I used a Command when I was with the Stealth. But for everything else, like it's been Sidewalls ever since. So.
Right. Yeah, somebody said, so I did notice somebody mentioned the Air Force bucket in the background.
Yep, that was where I went to college, yeah, Air Force Academy.
They always have the coolest gear.
Well, yeah, thanks to me.
Yeah.
I mean, Pro 7, there's a lot of people obviously that have a strong opinion on that helmet being the best. But yeah, it was after we got us like our first NCAA tournament bid since 2004 and beat Richmond and then went to like play Duke. And we won the ECAC championship my senior year also. But yeah, it was after all that then like the budget like increased and they were able to get the sweet like chrome helmets and
yeah,
whatever else.
Well, they've got some cool like one-offs like the what are they, like the Mustang, the P51 or whatever it is.
Yep.
Decal, and they had like a Red Tails one, I think. Best college road trip we took was out there to play Air Force in Denver.
Who's that? Padre de Cheese? Where'd you play at?
But yes, as he answers where he played, Charles, the Optic 2 I think is a very good head. The difference between the Optic 2 and the Optic 3 is pretty minimal. So like if you have the opportunity to pick up an Optic 2 more affordably, then I think it's a great option. So he said Sienna.
Nice.
Red Tails bucket was great. Yeah, the Red Tails one was very cool. He
Yeah,
said
we played Sienna my freshman year in the Carrier Dome. So I graduated in 2014, so I'm a boomer, you know, at this point. So
I'll get out of here. I graduated college in 2006.
Okay, yeah, you're a little older than
A
me.
little bit.
Uh,
But he said that they got smoked, but it was a fun trip.
Nice.
That's all that matters, right? As long as you
Yeah.
have fun.
Yeah, man, we always liked having those home games because people get intimidated by the altitude. I don't know if he felt that, but 2014 is young. I'm 05.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so you're out there way before me. Yeah, one of my best memories of the altitude at Air Force, though, we played Loyola my sophomore year, maybe. It was like, this is when the ECAC was absolutely stacked. It was like us, Denver, obviously us not being the reason the ECAC was stacked, but Denver, Loyola, Ohio State, when they had like Logan Schuss and Jesse King and all these like just stud players, Mark Matthews, you know.
Yeah.
Like the ECAC, it was at that time the Big Ten didn't exist, so it was the ACC was the best conference like unanimously, and then the ECAC was always like the number 2.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Loyola was really good at that point, but you probably remember Mike Sawyer, just an absolute rocket of a shot.
Oh yeah.
But they came out to play us at Air Force, and gosh, I feel kind of bad now. I'm like throwing shade on Mike Sawyer. He was such a good player, but yeah, like in the fourth quarter when they were down by a couple goals and like they really needed it, he's just like on the sideline sprawled out on his back, like just laying down, like couldn't breathe because of the altitude, and we ended up winning that game when they were like ranked number 2 in the country or something like that. So that was a cool moment. But
Max's class is 22. He's basically 5 compared to you guys. Yes, true.
yeah. Yeah, my youngest sister, she's the same. So I can relate.
Yeah, so funny story. I don't know that I've ever told it on here, but I'm the oldest of 4. And when I was a freshman in college, my sister was born. So I'm 18 years older than her.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so she's class of 21. High school 2020.
Yeah. Dang. Yeah, that's a crazy difference.
How was your experience in the NLL?
My experience in the NLL was awesome. I mean, that was a dream come true. I'm gonna make a video about this. I mean, but I'll share it all now as well because I appreciate you guys being here and asking. But yeah, so after college, I had no like formal indoor experience at all. I grew up playing lacrosse in Michigan. I started late. I started in 7th grade, which like compared to some of the East Coast guys, you know, you would call late because they started in first or once they start walking.
Yeah.
Right. But I grew up in Lansing, Michigan, which is about 3.5 hours outside of Toronto, and the NLL would get coverage on the local Comcast channel that we had.
Okay.
So I would see Toronto Rock games, and once I started playing lacrosse, I was like, oh, this is like the brand of lacrosse I want to play, because I grew up being a huge hockey fan, and this like had all the same like look to that, the physicality, the like high goal scoring. So I just thought it was like so cool, the like NLL like version of lacrosse.
Yeah.
And I was only ever exposed to field in Michigan growing up, but when I got to Air Force, my coach at the time, Eric Saramit, he's now crushing it at Rutgers. But he was like, dude, Tommy, your game translates so well to like indoor. It's the most fun version of lacrosse you'll ever play. Like, you should give it a shot, you know? And since I was a kid and watching those games, like I did say that when I was younger, like, hey, this is the version of lacrosse I wanted to play, you know? Obviously there was no like huge, like not knowing much about it, like motivation to like be an NLL pro, and because you're not going to make all these like millions of dollars and whatever. But that was always kind of like sitting in the back of my mind of wanting to do that. So yeah, after college, we reached out to the the Mammoth because my coach knew Steve Govett well. And yeah, I got an opportunity to go to their training camp and did really well right away. I didn't end up making the team there, but like my first NLL scrimmage, I had like 4 goals and 2 assists. And that was like thanks to like really awesome players like with a lot of experience there. Jeremy Noble, Adam Jones, Callum Crawford, John Grant Jr. was there at the time. And like those guys just made it like super easy for me to learn the game. But yeah, because of that camp, those like, 5-6 camps, whatever it was, you go play exhibition games in other cities and all that. And so Vancouver saw me because of that. And so then the next year they signed me and brought me out to camp as like they kind of did this like free agent camp before the main camp. So when I went to Vancouver, I made it basically down from like 95 guys trying out all the way down to like starting in the first game in Calgary in the active roster of like 22,
Wow. Yeah.
So like the attrition rate of that was absolutely insane. It's the most competitive lacrosse environment I've ever been a part of. Like I learned so much playing the indoor game. And so like my stint in Vancouver was long in the sense that I was on the team for like the good, like first like third of the season, but I only ever played like the first regular season game and the rest I was like a healthy scratch and then eventually got let go. And that's fine. There's like a lot of stuff that's always outside of your control, so you can only ever do like the best like for yourself and then just hope, all the other stuff works out. But yeah, after that I signed with Rochester and then San Diego, and those didn't like fully work out to how I would have ideally hoped, but I again did the best I could. Like Roch, all we did the first weekend was a fitness combine, and I came in 3rd overall behind Graham Hossack and Kyle Jackson. And then that same week, the GM called me and was like, hey, unfortunately, like you live in South Dakota and just like the money and the travel is not going to make sense for us,
Right.
So that was kind of disappointing, but again, it's like I gave it all I could at that camp. And then San Diego happened and there was the CBA lockout, which was tough. I feel like I'm just like making all these excuses now. But like the moral of the story is like I'm not like a John Grant Jr. like top talent type guy, right? So like being a fringe dude, these are all like the things you struggle with rather than like Lyle Thompson where it's like they're gonna keep him even if he's living in South Dakota,
Right.
So take that like what you will. And then yeah, COVID happened, and so pretty much everyone hasn't been playing for a couple years, right? Like, and so I'm kind of in the process of like making a comeback a little bit, I'd say. Just now that I'm in Denver, I'm giving it one more shot because I'm local, like finally local with the team rather than being in Kansas, stuck in Kansas and South Dakota and trying to like force someone to pay for all this expensive travel.
Right.
And so I've been working out with the Mammoth trainer for the past 5 months. Yeah, we'll just like kind of see how that plays out. I talked to Brad Self, their GM, and right now they don't have spots because they've still got 3 draft classes they have to evaluate due to COVID,
Right.
So we'll see like as training camp and things like that shake out and we get into like the regular season, I'll be ready to play. But yeah, I'm excited like with all the other stuff I've got going on with Sidewalls, and that way like the NLL is not like the number one like thing that's like make or breaking like my mental health, like it'd be awesome to be able to do it and I'm ready, but yeah, at the end of the day, like I'm just happy to be like involved in the lacrosse community in other capacities as well. So
yeah, no, for sure. Padre said play for the Riptide, they need all the help they can get.
I reached out to them. So when I was playing in Brooklyn in the MSL, my coach is actually out there, so he should yeah, get back to me.
I will say the Riptide are going to be getting some help this year, considering Callum Crawford signed with them in the COVID shutdown, and obviously Jeff Teat is now going to be making his debut. So,
oh yeah, he's awesome. And Callum's a stud too. Like I said, I overlapped with him in Colorado, so it was awesome to be able to just like learn from him.
Austin said, "Glad to hear you're making another run for it. Super excited for you. Good luck." Yeah, it's.
I appreciate that, Austin.
definitely cool to hear that you're gonna give it.
Oh yeah, Austin. Yep. Word. Yeah, that's my buddy from Michigan. What's up, man?
Max asked what I thought of the Hyperpower. So I don't know if you saw the release of the Hyperpower.
Yep.
Max, I think it's better than the Ultra Power. I haven't really been able to play around with it too much to like give a really good review of it, but I think that the adjustments they made to it are pretty solid, and it strings up a lot easier and it plays a lot easier without having to adjust your mechanics. So, Tommy, I don't know if you, I know you said you haven't really been playing with anything other than the your sidewalls head.
Yep.
When the Ultra Power came out, it was the one that they touted as like making your shot faster because
Yeah, it was like the that kind of crossover from that other sport. I have no idea how to pronounce the name, but right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it had this power ramp where like the scoop basically curved forward almost all the way. I think it did really all the way back to like the same level as the shaft, right? So you have the offset, it comes back down, and the power ramp like came back towards the shaft.
Yeah. I took a couple shots with one at the there was Lacrosse Las Vegas Lacrosse Convention, like back in, I don't know, 2017 or 18.
Yeah.
But Kyle Harrison was there, was at STX, and their booth was right across from mine. So we would just like hang out and just like shoot on the radar gun all day. But yeah, I do remember taking shots with it. It felt weird. Not that it's like something you can't get used to though, right? Yeah. Like with new technology, you got to give it time.
Yeah, and I think that it was like it's a cool concept, but it did naturally add whip. Like you would feel the ball come out like with more quote unquote whip, whatever that means to you. And so with the Hyperpower, the second iteration of it, they lessened that power ramp angle, so it doesn't have as much, I think, of an effect on your mechanics. Like I can throw like I normally would throw, and it wasn't like with the Ultra Power, it was putting the ball in the dirt. But with this one, it's much more of it, like an easy adjustment to make. So
yeah, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously a head like that is going to be like pretty different, but because of the dimensions generally, like my take on lacrosse heads is like you can pretty much use whatever, and what's going to make the biggest difference, which I'm sure you agree with, is the stringing of it, right? Yeah. Because like you're going to be able to tailor a pocket to fit the needs of whatever the head profile is, or the angles you're talking about on like the different release. Right. So a question I have for you though is like, what's the difference? What sets you apart? Obviously there's no professional stringing academy, right, that you go to get this like certification, but you guys are so much more knowledgeable than me. I just like do what works, right? Like I probably watched one like ECD Greg video when I was in like 9th grade or whatever, and like that's how I've strung my sticks ever since. Right. It's like simple knots. But ShamWow strings, Khalid, I play with him on the tunas, and he always like gives me shit because of the like I could be optimizing my like sidewall patterns and things like that better to like create these actual like better technical releases and things like that within my pocket. But I'm just like so hesitant to change on it. But what does like set you apart from like, or like taking that string to the next level, do you feel like how did that happen for you?
Yeah. So I learned how to string out of necessity, again, being your elder by a few I learned how to string because the options back in the early 2000s were just like abysmal, right?
Yeah.
You know, we're talking like hard mesh that was like legitimately just like it would just grate your fingers when you went to run your hands.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So like I actually learned how to string trads first, and I played in high school with trads because like the mesh options were just so bad. Back in the old e-lacrosse days, that might have even been like before your time. But
I remember e-lacrosse, yeah.
Yeah, so like e-lacrosse had all the crazy trad pockets, like Shook Shakedown, and you know all the ones named after guys that played in college and that had crazy trads that they had come up with. And I strung for some of my friends on the team because, like, being in central Pennsylvania, like, lacrosse was I was actually on, like, the first team at my high school that ever existed when I was a junior. So, like, I had never even played before. And I don't know, there's something about stringing that JM String said joined in as soon as y'all started talking about e-lacrosse. Perfect timing. As Grove said, e-lacrosse stick tech. So e-lacrosse, short sidebar, e-lacrosse is where I got, like, a passion for dyeing too, because Max McCool had the coolest dye jobs ever. Again, during the period where, like, digital vinyl cutters were not a thing that you could have in your house. We were still using, like, AOL dial-up back then.
Right.
So, like, it was just the coolest place to check out custom lacrosse stuff, stringing, dyeing, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I kind of, like, one of the things that I fell in love with lacrosse about was the gear. Like, I had played football my whole life, and, like, you bought your pair of cleats, but, like, other than that, everything was provided by the team, like the school or whatever. So there was, like, I remember in high school, I don't know why, like, we thought it was cool, but, like, guys would, like, write with Sharpies on their arms and stuff to, like, customize the way they looked when they hit the field, like, because we were a bunch of like suburb kids, like, no one had tats, like, but we were, like, marking ourselves up with Sharpies and stuff. It was ridiculous. I just remember, like, falling in love with lacrosse because it was so, like, you could make it your own, right? And I kind of got away from it for a while. I actually went and played football at Gettysburg College.
I visited there for lacrosse.
Oh yeah, so I tried to on, but, like, they were in the middle of a 4-year run to the national championship, and I had 2 lacrosse experience under my belt, so it wasn't happening. But the only reason I even thought I had a chance was because I was a face-off guy. So, like, I went to just be a face-off guy, and even
that's early for being a face-off guy. That's surprising.
I mean, when I played in high school, I was two-way, but, like, I took face-off. So when I got to get I'll try to make it as a fogo. But anyway, I got away from it for a while. I got back into it only a few years ago and forgot, like, what I was missing in a big way, and found the lacrosse community on Instagram. And it just kind of went from there. Like, my passion for it was reignited, and like, I remembered, like, what I loved about lacrosse was the gear and customization. Everything had come so far from, the mid 2000s to, like, 2017 from a mesh screen perspective, and even heads, that I just started, like, watching, like you said, I started with watching, like, ECD Greg, right?
Yeah.
And anybody else that was on YouTube, one of the guys, and he actually made a post for the first time in, like, 4 years today, but Pocket Power Lax, he had some YouTube videos that I watched, and he was dyeing heads, and I was like, oh man, I want to dye heads like that. He was doing, like, the vinyl cutter, he was doing punch outs and stuff. I was like, that's what I like. The kid was in high school. He's been going to Rollins, I don't know, college or university or whatever, and he kind of disappeared for a bit, but he actually made a post today for the first time in forever. So fun.
That's sweet.
Anyway, I just, like, fell in love with it. And so the original question was, like, what sets me apart? Like, I do this, like, every day. This is my full-time thing, especially since it happened. Like, my career that I was in, there were, like, big restructurings and stuff, and I had the opportunity to leave that and like, go and do this, and it made sense. And I take my time to learn what everybody's doing, and like some of it I like and some of it I don't, but I'm fairly confident that if somebody said, hey, this is what I want in my pocket, I can figure it out and deliver on it.
Yeah, when you just have so much repetition of just doing it day in and day out, then like I think that's where you get that expertise of starting to know, this direction is what pulls the mesh this way, that way, whatever else, you know?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's a ton of stuff that I have to learn. Like, there's other people who have a much better sense of like what people call string theory. But like generally speaking, I make it a priority to like get to know all of like the products that are out there. So like, I've been fortunate that companies have you know, been able to send me stuff to try out. But if I don't get it, I purchase it and I play around with it, and that you see all these behind me, like some of them are ones that I purchased just to like check it out and have an opinion on.
yeah.
And, you know, more than anything, like I think it's like super important that the next generation of people learn how to string and be involved in this way, because to your point, like it's the most important part of your stick. Like the head's great and the gloves are something that's important to the process, but like how it's strung is what's going to affect how you actually perform.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't want to say it's like a dying art form, but like I don't, you know, like if there aren't people there to like continue it on, it just would naturally kind of fade away.
Right.
And I actually had a kid reach out to me and was like, hey, can I pay you for a pattern for a Nike L3? And I was like, dude, like I'm not charging anybody to like share knowledge. Like that's
right.
That's not what I'm here to do. Like if I can help you learn how to string that you like to use better, that's all I really care to do. Like I don't need you to send me $10 to do that or whatever.
This person just said, care to give us a glimpse. I'm trying to think.
Let's see.
Oh, the Woody project.
Matt finally figured out my Z3 preference. Nice, Woody. That's cool. I'm glad that you were able to figure that out. It is a little bit tricky to figure the Z3 out, but I've strung it enough times now. If you have any questions, I can work with you. Drop top 4 shooters. Wow. Matt, you've come far with all the new gear. I can't wait to see you throw back with the Woody project. Yeah, it's in the other room. I can grab it.
Yeah, let's see it.
I've been working on it. I haven't started stringing it yet, but so Nishlax hooked me up. I actually just took the head coaching position at the school that I was an assistant coach at last year.
Oh, congrats.
Thank you. I'm pretty excited. Just kind of all happened. The previous head coach had an opportunity to take a college coaching position and just kind of worked out. So,
okay.
But one of the things that I wanted to like bring to the program was to like start building some tradition. And so I was like, it'd be really cool to get a Woody and like make it the program's Woody, you know, like school colored stuff. And Nish was able to hook up like an old frame that needed a little TLC and on that. So I'll grab it here in a second.
Yeah. I have a question. Speaking of string theory, so I'm at the point in my head where I do the bottom string, but when Coach Saramit was like stringing my stick for indoor, he did 3 rolled shooters to get that smooth release.
Yeah.
But what I ended up like adapting to and finding was I just do the bottom one rolled and the rest like just straight.
Yeah.
And that's like the perfect balance for me of like that quick release on passes, but then like a little bit of catch and hook on like that shot to have some power.
Yeah.
So any thoughts on that? Have you ever done like a mix of like rolled and straights in the head before?
So no, that's actually really interesting. And I heard you on the on your blindfold video say that like you do the bottom one as a rolled, and I was like, oh, because I've never mixed the two, but now I'm kind of curious because I feel like that might be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, that's why I was kind of interested to hear your like technical perspective on it. But I mean, I feel like just with like the speed that it comes out when passing, you know, you're able to like take advantage of that. Like it doesn't get affected by that roll and then just like comes off smooth in that area.
Yeah.
And then with shooting, it's like, yeah, it kind of like bypasses it and just like hooks on that second shooter.
Right. It makes sense. I like rolled shooters are always, it gives you a smoother kind of feel as it comes off the shooter.
Right.
Whereas the weaved is, you definitely like feel more of the friction against it.
Yeah, 'cause it's more like a cliff. If you like look at it super close, it's like has those sharp like 90-degree edges, you know?
Right, right. So yeah, I mean, I've never done it myself, but I could see how, because like getting into the theory of it, right? When you're passing, unless you're like really launching like a cross field pass, you're using probably more touch and less power. So it's going to be impacted by the first shooter it hits more than others. And then when you're shooting, you're kind of powering through that first shooter and getting more action from the second. So that makes sense. And
yeah, and I wonder too if like what I was thinking about with it is, so if you have all your shooters the same, like you're saying, the shooters are gonna like touch the ball differently depending on the power that you're putting into the shot, right? So I wonder if my shot is becoming, this is like, I'm just throwing this out there crazy, not like I'm some genius, but I wonder if like my spread of like where my shot is going, like at the different speeds, is actually like a tighter, like more narrow window because of like the roll, like the difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it could be. That would actually be a really interesting. Like I've always wished that we had more. What do they call it? There was like a TV show where they would do like sports science, right?
Yeah.
And, like, they did a little bit of it. I think the first year in the PLL, like they had segments where, you know, Ryan Brown was like shooting from different angles and it would show of his shot and stuff. I think that would be cool to break down the stringing perspective. Like if your head is strung a certain way, like how does it impact velocity and
yeah,
speed?
one thing I want to do, I'll throw this out there because this is like video ideas I've been thinking about, and I've been doing a little bit of research to see if it would work. But like golf, they use the like top tracer technology, and so I just don't know if you could like if that would work with a lacrosse release because the ball's not like staying at that one spot. But I think that'd be super interesting. I have a lot of friends who are coders out here in Denver and also like passionate about sports, specifically baseball, but baseball is the one league that just like absolutely crushes it when it comes to like sabermetrics and analytics and like the sports science side of things. So I'd be like super curious to see like from a TrackMan, like how like to like apply that to like deceptive shooting and things in lacrosse, and then like different releases due to like how like meshes, because that's where you'd be able to like really find out is like then if you have like the ball coming off the shooters differently, it's going to tell you like the different spin rates and whatever else, you know?
Yeah, so, always something that I find interesting too, because you know, you can actually like manipulate the bounce if you know what you're doing. Who had it?
Some guys do. Garrett Billings. I played with him in Vancouver. Unbelievable. He's like one of the best Canadian bouncers that I've ever seen.
Who was it this year? Oh, I'm gonna forget his name.
Ben Reeves.
Yeah, Ben Reeves had that crazy bouncer that like it looked way wide, and then it just like.
But he's American, so that was an accident.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think like one of the things that Lars Sidewall Jedi, he always talks about is like how like whip is such a bad term because it's so subjective, and like what one person considers whip is it's impossible for another person to know what that means.
Yeah. Dude, the most impressive like pros that I've like from a straining perspective, what impressed me the most about him is that variance that you're talking about. So Logan Schuss uses a stick that like I literally could not throw the ball forward with because of how much whip is in it.
Yeah.
And he's like an unbelievable player, amazingly accurate, scores like so many goals and shoots the hell out of the ball. And then you've got a guy like Junior or like Lyle Thompson that uses just like the smoothest release with like no hold relative to that stick, you know?
Right.
So I've always like found that super impressive to like, you know, that's what like separates the pros from like an average player is like using an extreme version of like a strung head and being able to perform at such a high level.
Right.
You know? Like mine, I think is much more like middle of the road comparatively, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but.
I strung a replica of Lyle Thompson's Lakota that he was using this year, and it like really opened my eyes, like putting the pattern in that he used. Like, I love it, but like I would have never strung it that way, and it has way less whip than anything I would have ever strung before.
Oh yeah.
But like it's got everything that like using it, I'm not saying that I'm as good as but like I can see how he does some of the things that he does with it, you know, because like it's crazy.
Yeah. Gosh, he's so impressive. I was able to see him. We overlapped at like a tournament when we were like younger in Florida. I got to like, you know, see him play down there. But then after that, we like never overlapped in college, and I'd see him obviously play on TV, but I was never, when I was in the military, attending like NLL games or anything like that either, because I was in like Kansas and South Dakota. Like it just wasn't near me, you know? So the first time I got to see him play outdoor live was in Colorado Springs this year. I went down there and like shot some vlogs at the PLL games. And that was just like such a cool experience to see him just like, man, the dedication he has to his craft, and just like he gives everything on the field. That was so cool to watch.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's insane. What was it
like seeing the best players in the world play box? Yeah, I mean, unbelievable. Like I was telling you guys, growing up, I watched.
I'm gonna go
after Billings. Yeah, go grab it. But yeah, growing up, watching after he graduated from Virginia, Garrett Billings, and then overlapping with him in Vancouver, he was like, I was playing there and doing well, and he's like, "Where'd you play your junior at?" You know. And I was like, I didn't. I just played in college. That was it. And he was super impressed by how I was doing there. So that was like one of my lacrosse idols growing up. That was being able to like get that compliment from was like super special. But then like outside of that, being able to learn like how like willing they were to like share their knowledge with me. Like Adam Jones and Callum Crawford, like my first year when I was with the Mammoth, like they were just so willing to like teach me like, hey, this is like how you perform well in box. And then yeah, like getting passes from John Grant Jr., like one of the all-time greats, was like next level, you know. Like Junior was so good. It's hard to like even like relate it to anyone else you've played with, because you'd be like in the middle and like cutting whatever it was, and then you might like look away to like find out where you're gonna run next. And if you were open, the ball would just be in your stick, you know? So it's like normally when you're playing with people, you're like active about like, okay, I'm gonna catch it, I'm gonna do the half cradle catch, whatever. Junior was like so good that it was just in there, and you didn't even have to do like a half cradle to catch it. You didn't have to be paying attention.
Yeah.
And then the other thing he would do is he'd do this like one-handed pass when he'd like switch, because he's a lefty. So if he was going down the alley, he'd switch right one-handed, and he'd throw passes at like 70 miles an hour with just one hand on his stick, right on the laser to like exactly where it needed to be, you know? Right. So yeah, those guys like that, the true like best of the best professionals are just, they're just built different, like from a skill perspective. So that was really fun.
One of my favorite moves is something that John Grant Jr. did so much, especially in the outdoor game, is the come from X, like you're gonna do like a question mark, but then instead of the question mark shot, he'd shoot it behind the back.
Yep.
And like in the off season right now with the guys that are coming to our like open field workouts, since it's like a smaller group because guys are playing football or soccer or whatever, you know, we got like maybe 8 to 10 guys showing up. Like we do a lot of team play, but then at the end I try to like do fun stuff, you know, like we played pig one day, and like we would do like corners or whatever. And the one day I was like, here's a bunch of stuff that like you probably would never even imagine trying to do, but like you can practice on your own. And
Mhm.
I'm never like, my whole thing this year with the team is like, I want to have fun. Like, win or lose, I want us to be having fun. And if like you go out here and you try this shot and it doesn't go, like, I'm not gonna yell at you. Like,
Yeah.
if you feel like it's a chance and you want to take it and you feel confident enough because you put in the work to try it, like,
Mhm.
let's go. You know,
Yeah,
that's
that's awesome. I love that.
the team culture to have.
Yeah, man, the thing I've been impressed about with the younger generation, like I said, I started late, 7th grade, right? And I wasn't comfortable throwing behind the back until I like say my senior year of college, but even that's like not truly accurate. Like I didn't like have the true behind the back skill until like I went pro.
Yeah.
And nowadays it's just like young kids, not that it's necessarily an expectation, but like they have that in their bag. So it's like the starting point of where kids are now from where I was at that age is just such a stark difference.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's exciting to see where the sport can go because of that. So,
Yeah.
and I think I attribute that to like, just like more content being available for them, you know, like when I was growing up, I'd try to dial my game in by watching the Mikey Powell highlight tape and the Paul Rabel highlight tape, right? Like there was no first class lacrosse teaching me like, you need to have your elbow here and hands this way. It was just like, I would look at Paul Rabel and just keep replaying that YouTube video of like, okay, this is where I need to be in order to get like a powerful shot. And so, you know, that's probably part of it. But and then people that are dedicated like you, willing to coach those younger guys and like get back to the game. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. Like I feel like the game has just moved forward. Like fundamentals are important, and like you're not gonna be able to like put together, you know, strings of wins on BTB to BTB, you know, shots and passes. But, you know, again, if you're having fun doing something that like a season ago you would have never imagined doing, like that's all that matters to me. Like when I was in high school, you said you started late at 7th grade. I was
Junior, even later.
a junior in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I never, ever, when I started, would have ever imagined scoring a behind the back goal. And then, like, you know, in men's league, like 8 years later, like I scored a behind the back goal, and it was the coolest thing I ever done in my life, you know?
That's great.
So, like, for me, like, especially right now, we have a bunch of freshmen that are coming out regularly, which is good to see, because these are guys that I didn't get to work with last year as an assistant coach.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, they're thirsty. Like, they want to know, like they want to learn, they want to like absorb as much of the game as they can. And so like, yeah, we'll take 15 minutes at the end of practice. If you're like, man, I want to learn how to throw behind the back as a freshman, just taking that 15 minutes and then they hit the wall with it. Like by the time they're a senior, like it, like you said, they've got that, they know they can use it. And that's what it takes to be like that elite level, I think nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because everybody else is like rising up too, you know?
Right.
So if you don't have, you know, this is obviously a little extreme, but it's like if you don't have that like Jeff Teat sort of like game, you're going to be kind of like behind your peers. Like I always talk about like, I just think the box like / like field hybrid is the most dynamic player in the game.
Yeah.
And so like if you don't have like that box talent, like to be able to like throw those quick passes behind the back, whatever else, like there's just going to be people that are elevated above you, able to do it better because, you know, there's some time and like importance of like having like a dynamic, like on the run shooter, but that's just like the game is changing and that's not nearly as valuable as it once was. So
Nish said some players will only hurt by trying to keep them in a mild. Great players do things others don't even think of. Yeah. I mean, I think always like the greatest players at any current moment are the guys doing the stuff that like nobody had ever tried before. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so glad Nish is still on here. I will show it off.
Even Keo. Oh, I've talked about him in videos before. Dude, he's the reason I shoot low and away.
So this is the frame that Nish sent over.
Look at that.
It was just you know, an old wooden frame. I debated just staining it or refinishing it, but because I wanted it to be like the school colors, I went with a navy blue lacquer and used like a vinyl stencil to put the school name on it in gold.
Yeah,
and
that's sweet.
Gonna string it up with gut wall and obviously a trad pocket. I'm debating the colors of the string and everything, but yeah, it turned out pretty cool. It's the first Woody I've ever like refurbished and customized, but it's been a fun process, and like learned a lot along the way as well. Stringing it, I think, is going to be something I've never like. I've strung trads before, but like stringing a trad in a stringing a trad in a plastic head versus stringing a trad on quite long. It's definitely going to be interesting, but
does that have a top coat on it, like the paint?
Yeah. So I actually used like an automotive lacquer, and then I used satin finish lacquer top coat.
Nice.
So
Dude, that's sweet.
yeah. So I think it'll turn out pretty cool. And
oh, dude, I actually have the first Woody I ever made.
oh yeah.
Let me go grab this. It's in it's outside. I'll be back in like a minute.
Yeah, Nish, I probably will need some help, just because it's a bigger trad pocket than I've ever put together before. So just like understanding the spacing and the tensioning. I do have I have a field and a box trad from wood lacrosse sticks from Justin, so I have that to be able to like look at, but I definitely would love to have your insight in it. Oh yeah,
Look at this thing. So this is like 7th grade Tommy, like just super inspired because his cousin showed him lacrosse. So I basically just like built this thing. Look at that, it's got like an old Warrior sticker on it.
That's incredible.
It's got like screws in it, and then this is like bark, literally like bark mesh.
Dude,
but when it was like still fresh and like green, we would actually like play with these and like throw around in the backyard.
That's awesome.
Isn't that hilarious? I know. I need to hang this up on the wall in here.
Charles Parrish, will box get you better for field? I think Tom's gonna say the same thing as I will, but 100% I think box will make you better.
1,000,000%, yeah. I wish like not that it's a regret. I don't like regret it, but I became like 10 to 20 times the player I was in college after I played box in the NLL. And so if I would have played box before, like I was a good college player, granted, but like I would have been just like next level even beyond that, like earlier. So I think the sooner that you can start box, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah.
So I just signed up for the box this fall winter to help me for field. That's awesome. Yeah. It's going to help so much. Like you'll learn so fast too. Your game will be elevated super quick. Look at that stick. You made that? Yeah. Like I said, I was probably in 7th grade. So I've always kind of been like some artistic DIY type of personality. So I think that's where this came from.
Well, and that's another thing, like lacrosse, so I was working in finance. And when I got back into like creating my Instagram account and dyeing and stringing again and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was like a creative outlet that like I totally was missing. And like so much to the point where like I was like, okay, this is what I should be doing. Like that other paid the bills and that was great, but like my passion was totally in like being able to make stuff and not just make like hang it on the wall, but like make it so that people can use it. And
yeah, dude, I love that because a lot of times people will buy my heads or see them and they're like, I would buy this, but I just don't want to play with it, Yeah. And I'm like, no, the reason I make them this way is so that you can play with it, and then if anything ever happens, you just let me know. You know what I mean? Like I want this to be like I don't want it to just sit on a shelf. Yeah. Charles said, what stick did pros use in the NLL? There's a lot of like gear sponsors now. People aren't very picky like when it comes to the shaft. I'd say like overall people are just like, give me whatever. And then depending on who they're sponsored by, that's obviously what they're using there. But Warrior and like Under Armour's out now. But there's some guys that use like Epic stuff. I feel like people preferred the Epic gloves and the Warrior gloves. But yeah, a lot of Warrior, I think now. The
Yeah.
gate torque, yeah.
Under Armour was huge for a while. I know Gate kind of filled that void since they were producing all the Under Armour stuff, but
Yeah.
Warrior's definitely been a big one.
What about True? Any thoughts?
True. So I have a bunch of the True metal shafts, and I actually like them a lot. I think True, like, I think that they've had some heads that have just like really not panned out, and then I think like some of their more recent stuff is definitely trending in the right direction.
Yeah.
You know, I think that the newest one, the Hazardous, has all the makings of like a decent head. Partly they're still trying to break into unfortunately, Lacrosse has like a big learning curve for the marketing component, I feel like. Like there's companies that just crush marketing and they sell a lot of heads, whether they're good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
There's companies that like might produce something that's pretty solid, but like they're just either they're not engaged in that part of the business, or they haven't found like their foothold in the marketing component. And I think True is still trying to find its way there. So
yeah. Nish said he's got a bounce. Great episode. Appreciate that, man.
and
Nice to meet you on here. What else? Charles, what head did you use in the NLL? So I used mine I was kind of like prototyping mine when I was in all these camps and stuff. So I used mine during training camp, and then during the season I had to use a Under Armour Command because it's actually a penalty if you use non-league sponsored equipment. So if it was just a fine, I would have used my own head, but it's like they'll actually throw you in the box for like 2 minutes if you have a non-league sponsored like item on.
that's
That happened to Sean Evans in one of the games. They tried to like cut off like the Nike logo on his leggings, like before the ref could like throw him in the box.
that's hysterical.
But, yeah.
Luke Sidewalker in the house. We mentioned
There we
you.
go. Yeah, I met Lars for the first time at that Colorado Springs weekend too. It was awesome to finally meet him. Man, I'm just excited to be doing things like this too now, and just like again putting more focus and emphasis on like lacrosse content and just being able to develop these relationships with the other like stringers and just like creators in the game.
Yeah.
Because I'm like in good circles within like the spaces I'm in Denver, like with the guys playing for the Tunas and Khalid and the guys I coach with for True Lacrosse. But yeah, being able to just like branch out and work with you guys and just like get to know you all better and see how that can like help the growth of the game and the growth of just like people's enjoyment across the sport is really exciting. So.
How many sticks would NLL players break in a season?
Good question. I wasn't always there long enough to find that out, but a decent amount. I will say in college, I was going through, man, the shafts last forever. We were sponsored by STX, so I used the side tie.
Yeah.
And I only ever broke like one shaft, which I actually have a funny story about. But the heads, the surgeons were pretty fragile. Like I would go through at least like one a month for the surgeons. And some of that was like picky. Like there were certain breaks where it was just like a big string hole like up top, and like you feel like that kind of throws off your mojo, you know? So you just swap it out.
Yeah.
And then other ones were like more severe, like through the actual sidewall, or like it was going to get to the point where, hey, this is a risk to play with in a game because I don't want to be have to go off the field and, you know,
Right.
not be out there to help the team. But yeah, when STX came out with the Alliance shaft, the first like their first carbon, I was actually in college for that, but I taped my stick top to bottom all the way up, which I still do now, but that was partially because of like Stephen Keogh. That's how he played with it at Syracuse. And in like the fourth quarter, I'm throwing these passes and everything's going into the dirt. So I'm like an attackman, you know, ball goes the other end. I have like my stick on my hip and I'm like feeling my mesh, looking at my head. What's happening? What's going on? Next time the ball comes down, like again, throw it straight into the ground again. I'm like, what is going on? So I finally like lean my shaft against my like hips as I'm waiting at the midline, and I just feel it bend completely in half.
Oh no.
What happened was someone checked me, and yeah, the carbon broke, but because I taped my stick all the way up, it was still attached
Right.
on like the middle of the shaft. Yeah, this is when we were playing Binghamton. So I run off the field and I'm like, all right, we got to swap out this head. And my coach is yelling at me like, why don't you have a backup? And I'm like, no one trusts their backup. This is normal. So, but yeah, like finally they get like a stick back on. I go out with like 2 minutes left in the game. It's like a tie game against Binghamton, which it shouldn't have been. But anyway, like I catch the ball like last minute and shoot this like game-winning goal from like 11 yards out, and then just like run off the field after. And I'm like, see, coach, I told you, like, better to like wait the time to get my game, like my number one head on there rather than throw me out with the backup.
That's funny. So you're the poster boy for like the mantra that I started last season with our program, which is you always need a backup that plays like your gamer.
Yeah, for sure. Because yeah, like the fourth quarter, I was out for like 5 minutes as they were trying to like, you know, switch the thing. Because then the other part was like the other stick wasn't taped up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I need a knob and I need it taped. Like,
yeah.
It's the worst.
I and this probably comes from being a stringer and like, again, being in tune with the fact that like your pocket matters so much. Last year I was like, I'm not saying you have to have like a carbon copy of your gamer as your backup, but like,
yeah,
I said to them, I was like, at some point in the season, I'm going to tell you to go get your backup and like come play practice with your backup. And it needs to be like broken in, and you need to be as confident in it as you are with your gamer, because it's going to happen. And I think like all season long, I probably only had like 3 kids that actually could do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to keep it going because I do think
Gosh, I mean, at least they're fortunate with how like far along mesh technology has come that it's like, that's really not as big of an ask as it was like 10 years ago, you know? Because now like I just strung this up tonight, brand new piece of ECD, like 3.0.
Yeah.
And this is like, I could play in the game tonight, you know, and it's going to be perfect. So yeah, now I'm like a disciple of what you're saying is like all my backups are strung the exact same and it's interchangeable at this point, you know? So.
Did you play with Cody Jamieson?
Yeah, when I was in Roch, we crossed over. Again, I wasn't there long, but yeah, got to say hi, show him the head. It was funny. He was like, Tommy, why did you make this head so stiff? When I like had a couple of the Roch ones I was showing him.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, my bad, bro, but that's like what it needs to be. Because yeah, I kind of beefed these up. I designed them after like what's going to be the best for box. You can use them for field, like I still do. It's just like it's a universal head, but like I was saying before, this is like the perfect box field hybrid type player head, you know? Whereas like you can use it in indoor, it's not going to break. In the 5 years I've been doing this, I've only ever had one person break it. And I say that because I was like, hey, like just for like research purposes, like will you send it back, whatever? They're like, yeah, no problem. And then that never happened. So I sent him a new head and replaced it. It was no big deal. It's fine. But yeah, like these are like, they're built to last, you know, especially if you're paying a premium price for like a custom design, you know? Right. And then I always tell people, it's like, hey, if anything ever happens, like just let me know. I've had people lose them and replace and whatever. And obviously as things scale up, like that becomes less realistic, but just because of like where it's at now and the size of what it is, it's like, I can really accommodate people and with where they're at in that way. And like the lacrosse community, I found like people have like such good hearts overall. And so no one's like taking advantage of you from that perspective, you know, hey, I lost my 3rd head this month. I need another replacement.
Right.
So, yeah. Yeah, Jammer, though, is another one of those, like, top-tier guys where it's just, like, he's built different, like, from a talent perspective. It's just, you know, in the NLL, you have to hit such small windows to score goals. And so if you're even hitting, like, a 5x5-inch, like, square, if that's, like, your spread on your shots to the top corner, you're not always going to score. I mean, that's good. You're, like, an accurate, super, like, talented player. But, like, Jammer is, like, he hits that, like, 2x2 square where, like, that release, that kind of like straight, like overhand, like almost like hands horizontal type thing.
Right.
That he does, it just skims the bottom of the crossbar and goes like in just so perfectly in the corner every single time. It's just so impressive to watch.
Yeah. Charles, I think you were the one who mentioned that you're playing box. One of the things about box, like, cause I only started playing box in the last like 4 years in a men's league because we didn't even have box back when I was younger in the area. And like just like shooting accuracy on a box net with a box keeper, like it's crazy. How much?
I mean, that's why I was forced to change my string pattern. In college, I used an absolute bag, and I guess I can admit this now. Like nobody in the FBI is coming after me, but like I used a pull string too, you know. So my stick was like half-inch illegal, like so much whip on it.
Yeah.
But that was because in field, like I only had to hit like a 1 foot like square spot, right, and that's gonna work. But yeah, box is different. Like you gotta.
I feel like there were so many times in field where I was like, all right, I'm going to bounce it. Where it's going to go, I'm not really sure, but I'm putting it in the and it's got a better chance of going in, you know?
Yep.
And then you hit it in the 6x6 where the goalie isn't, you know?
Yep.
That doesn't go in the box.
Yeah, and that works. But now, like, Charles, after you play box and then go back to field, you're going to, like, at least my mindset was like, oh, wow, how did I ever even, like, not score when I took a shot on this night, you know? Because you learn like how to shoot deceptively and like get the goalie to be frozen or like where you want him to be, and then just finish in empty net. And it's just like, man, your game's gonna elevate. That's exciting, dude.
Max said, you make an NLL roster, what head are you gonna use?
I don't know. Like I'm gonna try first to see how strict they are about the penalties. So, and hopefully my own. But yeah, that's a good question. Like the face shape of this overall, like, I don't know, Matt, maybe you want to like, you've got vast knowledge of all like the different heads, but I kind of like designed it to be similar to like an Evo. So I feel like that's like would be like a pretty good crossover for me. The Command was okay, but Under Armour's obviously like, they're kind of out now. Yeah. So I would probably use like a Warrior Evo is what I'm guessing. And then this is like also, it's similar but different to like a Surgeon in some like aspects as well too. But yeah, the Surgeon I used in college was like much thinner up top. That's when they changed the rules to be like you could go to 6 inches, right, instead of 6.5. So it's like this is a little wider profile, but overall it's got similarities between those two. So what do you think? What would you recommend for me?
Max said the Gate would be the best head for you because Max owns like 14 Gate Torques. He thinks it's the greatest box head ever made.
The new ones or the old ones though?
The new one. Yeah. I actually think the new Gate Torque probably has a face shape similar to yours, and it's probably it might not be as beefy, but it's pretty beefy. So hold on.
I would just need that's got that like weird like flat sidewall. I'd need like a professional for sure though to like get a pattern into that for me. That's gonna work.
Ignore it the way the new one's made. You can ignore it the little wings or whatever you want to call it, but
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think based on what you have, you're probably right. Either the Evo, I think the Gate Torque wouldn't be a bad option. If you were going to go Epic, the Epic ID Vision has kind of a similar face shape to yours, and it's
I don't, maybe it's changed now. Like just I'm thinking back though, like my perspective is tainted from like the Z1, but like their side profiles scare me from like the Epic heads. Yeah. Because when I was like playing in NLL2, the first one, it was like the prequel, you know? And everyone looked at the prequel and was like, no thanks.
Yes. Yeah.
Like too scary.
I'm trying to see. Oh, I have here I have the ID Vision. So I did this one. I'm actually sending it to him.
But yeah, they're awesome about innovating. So I'm assuming now like everything is like, you know, where it needs to be. Oh so, yeah. Like it's
definitely different than the old prequel style, but this is like a super, I don't have it on a shaft or anything, but it's not like it's got a little bit of flex, but not a lot. Yeah. And this is what this is going to Tyson Bell. So like, and he's a all world short stick defensive. Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of got that similar face shape, you know, kind of like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Flare. But I think that the Evo, the ID Vision, and the Gate Torque all kind of have that same face shape. So
yeah. What are your thoughts on the new ISO warp mesh? Because like I showed in the video, I was talking to like the channel mesh guys way back in the day. That's where I got this, and I loved certain aspects of it, but like the whole just never. It's just like the warps, you know, where it's like I just don't have enough, and so I can't feel confident playing in it because I'm not going to be able to do have the ball security I need. So, have you been able to like mess around with the new stuff much yet? Or
I have. I actually I should grab that too. I should run and grab it. I know we're already 15 minutes over the time, but
I was gonna say I got my absolute cutoff. So
Okay. Yeah, I actually think that compared to the like molded into the plastic warp mesh, this stuff is better because you can play around with the properties of the mesh by tweaking the sidewall patterns and stuff. So like I think it's much more usable for a wider array of players.
yeah.
I think I think it's a good starting point as they really dial in like the whole size and like the whole placement and stuff. It'll get better. Right now, like it is a little bit like, how do I want to say this? Like as somebody who strings all the time, like I had to figure some stuff out. So for like your novice stringer, like it might be a little bit difficult, but it wasn't as difficult as I thought it might have been. Like initial reports, even I think from even from Zach Courier, he said it's like it's a little tricky, and like he knows what he's doing. So you know, I think it's a good starting point with it. But Charles said your head looks really good. Where can I buy it? And Max said he wants to try one out too. So I don't know if you want to plug
sidewalls.com, SIDEWALLZ. So it's sidewalls with a Z. SIDEWALLZ. Yeah. Charles also said funniest trash talking experience you had in the NLL. It was actually from a fan. So the game I played in Calgary, I got a penalty during the fourth quarter, and they put me in the box, and like this guy's just like absolutely smashing the glass behind me. He's like probably in his 50s, has this Calgary jersey. I'm like, you know, way up north. This is what, like, I don't know how far Calgary is from the American border, but it's like way up north in Canada. And I was just like, I can't believe I'm in this, like, this is my life right now, where I'm in this experience of like 13,000 people just like absolutely screaming and yelling and caring that I play lacrosse was like so funny to me. And then he's like behind the glass, like, McKee, like that's your fault. Like this, he's just chirping me, and I'm just like laughing in the box. I'm like, I'm so happy to be where I'm at right now, and so happy that this is like a shared experience that me and this random like Canadian dude have.
That's
so, yeah. And then before that, it was like, I don't know if it's a good trash talk experience, but when we had camp against Vancouver my first year with the Mammoth, Callum Crawford got like 10 minutes of penalties because he was trash talking players, which then led to a penalty, which then led to saying things to the ref. And like, he was literally in the box for like 10 or 12 minutes. And I just had never seen that before. Like, all right, so we don't have him for a while.
Just going off the rails.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely insane. And I'm coming from this like American perspective where like just hockey and lacrosse, like box indoor, is so much different than like field or like football American sports, where like coaching is just like, and like level-headedness is just like, it's such a like fundamental discipline.
Right.
And so to see like guys do stuff like that, and then coaches be like, that's just the flow of the game, boys. Like, you know, Callum's like doing this for the squad. And I'm like, how is everyone else not seeing this as a super detrimental thing that he just put himself in the box for 10 minutes?
Right. One of your best players, arguably, is just out of commission, and you guys are.
Yeah. I was just like, okay, I feel like we need to be more disciplined with that, but okay. And I mean, I love him to death. Like, he's a great player. So, and this is camp, right? This isn't like a regular season game. So I don't think he's ever lost his cool like that in one of those. So that's video to learn how to string ahead. I'm gonna give that one to you.
I think there's a ton of video content out there. It's hard to say like the one is the best. I think in terms of like just like what's been used by a large amount of people, and it's easy to follow and it's well produced, like the East Coast Guys stuff.
Yeah. I also like Lars, the stuff he did with STX. Super good too. Very well produced.
Shane, watch Tuesday tie-ups. That's right. But yeah, I think ECD, like they have a pretty large library of tutorials. Lars's STX stuff is pretty well produced, and it's
dude, I used to use the String King like on their website. That was super helpful, man. Impressive whoever put that all together.
7 Deadly Strings is I think that's his YouTube, is 7 Deadly Strings, like the number 7, and it's That's Oscar Reyes from String King. That's his YouTube account, and he's got some cool YouTube tutorial or like String King videos on there.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to meet all these people. Like I said before, it's like I've interacted with them, you know, through like messages and whatever else, and it's like excited to just like get to know these guys.
I think I want to do some like, so right now Tuesday tie-ups has just been like me and one person. I think I've done a couple with 2 people because you can go up to 4 now.
Yeah.
So I think it would be cool to like do my normal Tuesday tie-ups, but then have like almost like stringer symposiums or something where like 4 of us are going to get on and talk about like stringing a new head that came out or stringing new mesh or just take questions or whatever, because also the more people that go in, like everybody gets notified that they're all on live. So like we could get more people into the lobby and Max beat me to it, but are you planning to go to LaxCon this year?
Yeah, so we'll see. It depends how his schedule lines up. I'm coaching with True Lacrosse, the club. And so I know we've got a trip to San Diego in January. And so I'm hoping to be there. I'm not going to have a booth. Definitely not. But I'm hoping that I'm going to make it there just to be able to like walk around and meet people. And I'll have like a backpack and like heads in it and all that stuff so people can check them out. That's the plan. So, but I can't give a for sure answer right now until I look at the schedule a little bit more. I'm a very bad procrastinator when it comes to trips. I'm going to a wedding in Dallas this weekend, and I haven't booked my flight yet. So that's like where I'm at with booking LaxCon,
so
you know?
You'll deal with LaxCon on January 1st.
Yes, exactly.
So I ran out to the garage to grab it. On the Tuesday tie-up, I think a couple weeks ago, somebody mentioned it. That we've had, there's somebody who joins normally, Richard Doherty. He actually was live with me a few weeks ago. And he hops in and he absolutely despises the STX Arrow. You remember the Arrow from back in the day?
Yeah,
right?
that's
the crazy. Yeah. So
my high school assistant coach had that.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool then, and then I like find out after he's like, no.
Yeah, it's terrible, but like in the best way possible. And to me, it's one of the coolest pieces in my collection just because it's such a, like, I've talked about this before, like, there was a period of time in the 2000s where companies were willing to do anything to like just do, you know, like Brian had the little rubber fingers and STX had the Arrow and the Liquid that had like the floating sidewall, and Warrior was putting titanium like rods in the plastic.
Yeah, well, the Prophecy, the one with the blue gel on the sidewalls, that's the first head that was like what hooked me into lacrosse. My cousins brought that to a family Christmas, and I saw that and was just naturally like pretty good at it. Yeah. And like that, because of that like extra little like feature on the head that was wildly different. Yeah. That was like part of what hooked me to the sport. Yeah. So like I always think about those heads like in a special way.
Yeah, totally. And I'm not saying they're wrong for not doing that anymore, but it just doesn't seem like companies are really taking chances with stuff as much anymore. Like it was like a crazy time in the 2000s with some of those.
Yeah, yeah. A little rubber band on the back.
The pulse or whatever that was. Yeah. You could adjust the flex of the head by moving the rubber band around. So anyway, somebody was like, you should put the warp mesh in my Arrow, and I did it.
Nice.
And it's gross.
It's gross. That's really gross.
But it's actually like, it's got a decent channel. It's like a bag in the middle. Like, yeah, it doesn't have a lot of, it kind of just rolls around in there. Partially, I think because the head is so narrow. Yeah. The mesh is like, you know, it's a specific width, and you could almost take out like half a row, or like take out one column of holes, and it would probably be better. So yeah.
The shiftiness is what's always like gotten me with at least for channel mesh, and I assume the warp mesh is gonna have to like get over that too. I'm just like, if you string it a certain way, it's gonna have just way too much whip, you know?
Right. So one thing that's interesting, and this goes into string theory, like when we talk about whip, like there's whip from the drag in the channel, right? So if your head's really channeled, the ball drags through and it creates friction in the channel.
Like on the sides of the ball you're talking about, maybe?
Yeah. And then there's whip from like the tension of your shooters, right? Like, so what you're talking about, like a cliff, like it hits it and it just comes out, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time when people want like whip, they want it from the drag in the channel, not necessarily from like a hook off a shooter.
Yeah.
And so when you do like the Chenango top string where it pulls it down, you can typically get like a tighter channel higher up in the head, and which makes it more like whippier.
Yeah.
With the warp mesh, when I've done a couple Chenangos now with it, and it actually reduces the whip because the way the mesh is designed, like if you string a high pocket with it, it's just like a bowl. Like it's just like a bowl and it comes off the shooter wherever you have it, like a cliff, right?
Yeah.
But if you actually like reduce the slack in the bowl by channeling it more, it reduces the whip, which is like counterintuitive to normal meshes.
No, that's interesting. Yeah, but it kind of makes sense because like with what I'm talking about with like the shiftiness of it is, I don't know if this analogy will make sense, but it's like the delay almost in like a car accident, you know? So if the mesh is like kind of has this tension back here that's allowing like the ECD stuff to like have this like crumple zone of like slowly like moving the mesh forward,
right,
that's better than the ball like sitting on this hole here, and then that hole like carries like an inch and a half to where it's just gonna like dead stop and then go, right?
Exactly. It kind of by channeling it more, it creates that like crumple zone that actually slows the ball without creating more weight.
Yeah, it's like helping the ball like roll along the mesh rather than taking the mesh with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Feather Pocket wants to get you one of his pockets to try out.
Who's this Feather Pocket?
Feather Pocket design. I saw you mention if I wanted to try it out. I saw your stringing video.
Folder.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
that's awesome.
I'd love to connect on that. I think it would be cool to check out. So.
Yeah, I'm down for that. Creations by Thomas. Feel free to hit me up if you ever want to talk leather pockets. Dude, his stuff is so impressive. I've like featured some of his creations on my like page.
Yeah.
But dude, man, he kills it. Like the stuff he makes is so cool.
Yeah, for sure. I've got a couple of his trads. They're awesome.
Yeah, just like the leatherwork things too. I love like seeing all those random like wallets and sandals and whatever else, you know.
Well, it's 10:30 my time. 8:30 your time.
8:30, man. I got a game at 9. I still got a lot of night ahead of me.
Yeah. Well,
the big tunas.
We can get wrapped up and get you on your way. I don't want to make you late for warm-ups or anything.
Yeah.
But hey, man, I really appreciated you joining me. Fun to talk about your head. It was cool that we were able to do it the same day you released the blindfolded stringing video.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm pumped about all that too. This is awesome.
Yeah, but for anybody who's still on YouTube, Sidewalls Lacrosse, go check out the video that just dropped today. It's funny to watch. Good jokes, dude. You roasted Ocello.
Yeah. So I know him. Like we're not best friends or anything, you know, but we've got a mutual understanding of kind of like taking some jabs back and forth. It's all in good fun. So yeah, he's a good dude. Listen to his podcast too if you guys don't. The post game.
Yeah,
that's like one of the best pieces of lacrosse content out there too, from that perspective.
For sure.
So,
but yeah, man, I appreciate it, and we'll have to do it again, and we can talk offline about working together in the future because I think cool stuff. So
absolutely, thank you, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Tommy. I appreciate it.
Take care, guys. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us too. This is awesome.
Nice, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, see ya.